About a month ago, I did a Q&A and I asked everyone at the very end, well, near the end of the Q&A, was it middle, and somewhere in that Q&A, I put up 6 pictures of what you, the viewers, wanted me to bring to the channel to look at. And you guys did pick. What we're gonna do now is go over here and pick it up. It's here, you saw the community post, it arrived. And we're going to do an unboxing, because this is the first one that I've ever had that's a competition ready to run RC. Welcome back, everyone. So today is going to be a little bit different for the unboxing, all right? Yes, we're going to unbox this vehicle, but I'm also going to do a deep dive in depth of a new person picking up their RC for the first time, and before they run it, what things they don't want to check for to make sure that it's all right to run, all right? Meaning this might be a 25-minute video, and I apologize for that, but I want to go into depth about what you want to look for when you purchase your RC for the first time and you're new to the hobby and you don't know what to look for, all right? That means we're gonna look at the diffs, we're gonna check all the screws, look at the shocks, make sure there's no leakage and stuff like that, all right? So bear with me, I hope you stay to the end. You might learn something if you're new to the game. I hope you do learn something. I hope you retain this video for later on references in case you get another vehicle and you forgot some of the processes. This is what I do 99% of the time. What I mean by 99% of the time, I do have comfort companies that I use. I just take out the box and run them. One of them's Arma, that's the first one. Habal's another one, and then Tinkerelli is the third one, all right? Those are the 3 main, I call my comfort companies, all right? Those 3 that there, I do take out of the box every once in a while and just do the unboxing, take it outside and rip it, because I understand that what I check for might not be everything that's like oil, might not be topped off the way I like it topped off, but I know that there's oil inside the diffs and shocks that you can run it for the first time without damaging any of the equipment, like the differentials or the shock pistons themselves, right? So that being said, let's go ahead and unbox this, show you what comes in the box, and then we go to take this through a process of what I check and how I check them, all right? Let's get started. Dragon RC waterproof 120 amp ESC 4-6S Speedo. I've never seen a 4S 120 amp ESC power up 6S. There's a Dragon RC powerful 1900 brushless KV motor. The Serpent high quality aluminum shocks and shock towers. Big bore 16 millimeter hydraulic shocks, durable 4 millimeter aluminum shock towers. Dragon RC pistol grip 2.4 gigahertz transmitter. You got the Dragon 15 kilogram high torque servo with metal gears. It only comes in one color, that's the color. And again, the box says 4-6S, 120 amp ESC. Still sealed, not broken open yet. I haven't peeked. All right. That's a lot of orange. There's a lot of orange going on there. Oh my goodness. All right, let me bring you guys in. We'll take a quick look at it, right? You get your mind plug. You get 2 DIN connectors, shock pistons, servo horn, and servo horn saver. You get stickers from the Serpent. You get your transmitter instructor manual. You get a printout for how to program your ESC, how to set up your battery. And you get the Serpent itself truck buggy user manual. It's a colorful manual, gives you everything you need to know about the buggy here. You get the 2.4 gigahertz radio, normal settings, throttle trim, steering trim, throttle dual rate, steering dual rate, on and off button there, steering reverse and normal, throttle reverse and normal, foam steering wheel, and you get your SRX8e Serpent buggy, competition buggy. Not my style, but hey, you know how that goes, right? Suspension feels pretty plush, right? Got your rear wing here, wing mount back there. Normal Lexan body. It's not really that thick. I think it was normal size Lexan. All right, so let's start from the front, all right? All right, here's the front of it. You got the front bumper right here. There's no skid plate to it. It's just a front bumper. You have your nose piece. You have your sway bars here for the front. Your shocks are 16 millimeter big bore shocks. They're aluminum. They are adjustable. Adjustability for toe and camber in the front. You have universal drive shaft for the front. You have steering blocks in the front. You have your aluminum shock tower up front, 4 millimeters in thickness. Servo saver arm is composite as well. This is your 15 kilogram servo from Dragon. 120 amp ESC right here. Here's your receiver box. Here's your 1900 kV motor. You have front, center, and rear diffs, all metal. Now the rear shock tower is aluminum also. You do have adjustability for your camber in the rear. You have dog bones in the rear, sway bars as well. Shocks again are metal, aluminum, and they're adjustable. Just rear hub back here. Battery tray, you can strap it in, two 2S's on both sides to make 4S, or you can run two 3S's on both sides to make 6S. I like the way the dog bone in the center for the rear drive shaft is. It has that bronze color on it to keep it from rusting. Same thing on the front. An aluminum chassis, side guards right here. Suspension arms are kind of thick. We'll see how they hold up here. Again, first time having a competition buggy, so I don't know how thick these are supposed to be. Shocks are held in through this push pin here, and there's a grub screw that locks it in down for the front and for the rear. So you should be able to adjust where you want your shocks to sit at. 1.5 grip screw. Again, the shock sits in through this push pin here. Comes in right there. All right, so the chassis is a T6 7075, 3 millimeters thick. It is coated. I guess this is powder coating on it. Have an opening for debris to come out for spur gear and pinion gear. Front block is stronger than the back blocks because majority of your crashes happen here. Again, metal in the front, composite in the rear for A and B. C and D blocks are composite for your hinge pin holder. Hinge pins are held in the rear through some E-clips right here. So yes, your hinge pin for your front are held in by E-clips as well, all right? But you have this extra protector, the front bumper here will help keep it in as well. You have your wing mount here, kind of thick. All right, just for the sake of things, everyone, before we get started, I'm going to look at the front, rear, and center diffs to make sure that they have oil in them. It's something that you want to do if you're a beginner. There's certain things you might want to do, all right? And for this being a new buggy, we're going to go over that as well, just by size, looking at all the components of it. So we're going to break open the front diff, the center diff, and the rear diff, see if there's any oil in it. I'm gonna, if it needs oil, I add oil to it. I'm not gonna change the oil right now. I'm gonna run it as is. If you're new to the hobby and you wanna make sure that everything's working fine, there's a few things that I would suggest you do. This is something that I normally do when I get a brand new buggy or RC vehicle. I wanna check the diffs. I wanna make sure the diffs are okay. But the main things you wanna make sure that you do is make sure that all your screws are tight. You don't need to over torque them. And then you need to find out which ones are inserted into metal so that way you can add, if you need to, or put some. So just go around, make sure they're all tight. You don't need to put Hulk strength in there, just to make sure that they're tight. Any screw that holds anything component in that's vital, like steering arms, steering blocks, and everything else, you wanna make sure that those are tight too. It also gives you a chance to actually eyeball your vehicle to make sure that everything looks like it's supposed to look. And anything that's out of place, you'll be able to see once you got everything tightened down. But that's what you want to do. You want to go and check all your tightness of all your screws, your bolts, your nuts, and everything else, especially on your shock towers. These will pop off on you guys. So once they pop out, don't worry about it. You pop them back in. They don't have a shock tower cover on them, protector on top of them. So that's what you want to do once you get it. But now I'm going to break it open, check the diffs, make sure all my diffs have fluid in them and nothing's leaking. That's real easy. 2 screws and your comes out. It looked like there's something leaking in there. That's a little light for my taste, but again, I'm going to run it as is. All right, so not at all, not a lot, not even, maybe it's a tad. But yeah, you might want to check your diffs, make sure they have any kind of oil in it. You don't need a lot in there, everyone. You just need just enough to cover, I would say, halfway onto the diffs themselves. So yeah, I'm going to add some oil in here because I think my diff oil kind of flew out during the process of being shipped. I don't know, but it looked like all the oil that they had in there is out. And there's not much grease on my gear here, but I'm going to add some grease to it. So I'm going to put 20,000 weight in the front. Let that sit for a moment. If off, you're going to have to go on the bottom and take out the screws. No, lock tight, and hopefully that's not metal, but composite. It looks like it's composite. Sliding motor mounts mount is aluminum as well, black anodized. And the front, the holder is composite as well. So yeah, you can't use Loctite on that. All right, so let's pop this diff open and see what's inside of it. Hopefully we have some oil, at least some, not 2 or 3 drops. All right, that's the front diff. This is the rear diff, so let's see what's in here. Just like the front diff, center diff has very little oil at all. All right, so let's talk about the diffs, everyone. So as you can see, when I opened both the diffs, the front and the center diff, there was very little oil in there. Now, it's enough to lubricate the gears. Again, once you start running your diffs, start running hard out there, even on your first run, oil can get, kind of thick and soggy and everything else. With the oil design, it doesn't last that long. That's why every 10 battery packs or 20 battery packs or 20 hours, you're supposed to replace the oil in your shocks and in your diffs. I would add a little bit more oil to this, just that you don't damage your gears. Each gear does have oil on it, but you want to make sure you have enough lubrication so that you don't damage the gear and overheats and get hot. I don't know what kind of oil it was, but I'm going to put 200,000 in this one here. So again, I don't know about competition buggies. I've never owned one, so I don't know oil viscosity should go in there. But I do, most bashers come with at least 100,000, 20,000 in the front, 20,000 in the rear, or maybe 30 in the front, 20 in the rear, and let it sit for a while so it settles in. But when that's done, I'll bring you back and we can continue on. Oh, one more thing while filling up your diffs. You don't want to put too much diff oil in there so that when you put the cap on and you go to push down on it to make sure it's seated correctly, you don't want oil popping out through the screw holes. If you do, that means you have too much, because if you get too much oil inside the screw holes here, you're not going to be able to get your screws in and set like they're supposed to. Just enough, again, halfway up towards the center of where it just barely covers center gear pins here. Just a little food for thought. And me personally, I'll start with a electric tool if I get to a certain point, and then I will tighten the rest down by hand. Now, by my eye, I'm started at 12 and 6, but by your eye, this is 12 and 6. So again, by your eye, I'm starting at 3, just enough to get it down, and 9, and the rest by hand. I'm at 12. I'm not trying to torque it down to the point where I'm trying to muscle it through, just so I get it tight enough. But again, you don't want oil seeping out through the screw holes. It means you got too much oil in there. Just a little bit of a torque. If it doesn't move, don't worry about it. Moves a little bit, you're good. If you get a little click, you're good too. As far as adding grease to the gears, I don't want to lube it too much to a point where it starts flapping all over the place, but I do want to add grease to the gears, right? And the grease you want to use is something that's good for your gears and will not damage plastic, because again, your gear here, your cover for your gears are plastic, but the gears are self-metal. So I don't want to over time erode my plastic from my gear housing. Grease that's made for plastic lubrication. As you can see, I have just enough grease in there so that when it's spinning, it does not go all over the place, but my gears are greased. Pop that cover back on there, and let's get started with the next one. Let's get this cover screwed in there. I go to a certain point, hand tighten everything else. That way I don't strip anything, and I don't over tighten where I start splitting plastic, because you can't do that. Now for me, that is a little bit too much oil I put in there. Easiest way to get it out, just little by little. I'm going to scoop it out with a flathead screwdriver, just a tiny bit. I don't want to get any of the oil inside the screw holes here. Oil gets in there, you're not going to be able to get your screw down there and tighten up the top of it, because it's too much pressure and there's nowhere for it to go out. All right, there's no bleeder holes. There's bleeder holes like this. Still have to worry about it though. I still would fill it up to that point. Once you put the cap back on the top, there's the holes, line it up. And me personally, I put a little pressure. Let me line everything up real quick. A little pressure, and if I see any oil coming out, that means it's too much. And there's not any oil coming out, so that means you want to clean up the excess oil off your diffs once you put oil in there, because you want to make sure that there's no oil leaking. And the best way to do that is to clean everything off. Like I said again, I will start off with electric and then finish up with hand tighten. Just to tighten enough so that, start at 12, again, tighten enough right now, just so I can get everything leveled. Go back and see if I can get a little bit more turn out of it. I don't want to torque it down to the point where I'm trying to use Hulk strength. but just enough that you get that little click going on. And again, wipe everything down so you make sure that you don't have anything leaking. All right, before I go any further, I'm going to show you something very interesting that I just noticed. There you go. There it is. You got a little rubber O-ring right in there. It's to keep the dry shaft from moving up and down and slamming up against diff cup here. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. First one I've seen in a lot of the RCs. I kind of do that with some of mine's. Dog bones are too loose and it's moving a lot. I kind of put a piece of rubber inside just to keep it from slapping around. But this is pretty cool. I like how they did that. All right, now to put this back together. All right, that's in there. What I mean is they see, let me tighten everything down and I'll show you what I mean by your dog bones moving. All right, once I get that, I give it a little torque. Put the front bumper back on. If you guys notice, when I am using my electric DeWalt screwdriver, I hold it very lightly in my hand so that it can actually rotate in my hand when it gets to a point where it stops, so that way I don't overstrip anything. Front diff is good, center diff is good. Now let's get to the rear. Those rubber grommets inside the output cups, there's no play in the output cups at all, in the dog bone, front or rear. All right, so let's get the rear diff off now. Get the shocks out of the way where I can pull the diff out. Again, they have rubber inserts inside. Keep your dog bones and everything else from slapping around and making a lot of noise. And yep, they have them in the drive cups for the dog bones in the rear. Okay, this had more oil in it than the front did. So I'm gonna add, all right, for the rear, I'm gonna add 10,000 since I got 20,000 in the front, 200,000 in the center. I'm gonna add 10,000 in the rear, just so that I can have the back end a little bit looser than the front end. Want just enough oil so it's above the center shaft there and holds the gears in. So while that is going and settling down, let's take a look at this real quick. I'm reading over this while I'm doing everything, and I notice up here, let me show you real quick. Right there, continuous current 150 amp, burst current 95 amps. Input voltage 2 to 6S LiPo, BEC output is a 6.77 volts. But by this, it is telling me that the ESC that is mounted inside this vehicle is a 150 amp ESC. It's not a 120 amp ESC. That is why it says 4 to 6S LiPo. That is a 150 amp ESC. Like I said, again, we're going to test that theory. If I stick 2 3S batteries in there and pull the trigger and it doesn't and it fries up, then I know that it's incomplete. But this looks like an updated, supposed to be an updated version for the ESC and motor, but it does state this is a 150 amp ESC. And looking at the size of the ESC, I would say that it is a 150 amp ESC. And everything else down. Again, 12 o'clock. A little bit, you're good. If you don't worry about it. Don't try to force it. Like I said, again, you want to use grease that's good for plastic and metal. I've got some other grease on order that I want to use that is designed for RC plastic gears and metal gears. There's no slop. That's a good thing. Again, hand tighten everything. Because you don't want to strip anything out of one. And you don't want to tighten to the point where you're trying to use gorilla muscle, farm boy backwood muscle. No offense to anybody, hope you don't take any. But you don't want to tighten to the point where you're going to strip or crack plastic or strip any gears. So I hold it light enough so that when it moves in my hand, means that's enough. Then I can go ahead and torque it down with hand tight. Anything. If your oil's leaking from your shocks, you'll be able to tell from the bottom here. You still want to double check anyway. Put my finger here, no oil, front, no oil. All right, so that's my check for a brand new purchase. So again, there's oil leaks. Take a look at your vehicles. If you see it, wipe it down. So that way if you're running it and you see more leaks, you got to figure out where it's coming from. But since you did the check of your diffs and everything else, notice that if there was any leak anywhere else, you'll be able to know. What I'm gonna do now is change out these XT, these DINGS connectors or T-plugs. Amos XT150s on here. If you're going to change out plugs, everyone, if you're using anything higher, 4S or higher, you might want to get some good plugs. I use Amos on all my vehicles. 90% of my vehicles that I run anything above 4S on. But I will be changing these plugs out here in a few seconds. And once they get that changed out, I'll bring you back and we'll see what it looks like. So that's what I do, everyone. That's how I check all my vehicles when they come here out of the box, all right? I know I said straight out of the box, take it out and run it. But before I actually run it, this is exactly what I do. I check all the screws on the bottom, check all the chassis, make sure all the screws are tight there, check my lug nuts, make sure they're tight, check the nuts and the screws for the shock towers and everything else. And like I said again, since these are not screwed in for the pins for the shock towers, I'll check the grub screw on the bottom to make sure they're in there and there's nothing, and these pins do not pull out. Wing, the screws, and make sure it's set there correctly. After I check all the screws to make things good to go, inside and out, to include the Ackerman bar, the steering rack and arms and everything else, check the differentials. What I do, again, you saw me, I take them out. If it's not enough oil for me, my preference, then I add oil. I run them just like it is, stock out the box. I've got enough differential oil weight to make sure I can top these off. Check your mesh on your pinion gear and spur gear, servo saver and everything else, make sure that's tight. And again, this is adjustable servo saver here. And then after all that is done, check and make sure that it actually runs. Yeah, so make sure everything's working. So just put a battery in it, get it off the ground. There's two ways you can do this. One, take the wheels off, so then you can leave it on your table or your platform that you're working on. Take the wheels off and do it that way. Two, leave the wheels on, get it up high enough so the wheels are not touching the ground. Make sure that your steering and your motor works, ESC is working. Transmitter first, check and make sure your steering works. Everything goes back to center. How I check my Ford in reverse is this. But what I want to do is make sure that I get some kind of speed. That's reverse. That's forward. I use my throttle trim. If I want to show you that the wheels expand, then I'll do it this way. But I hate doing that because I did have one time I did that. Didn't have my hand on top of it. Tires touched the mat and it just took off on me. So throttle trim, make sure that actual gets throttle. Safest way for me to do it. Put some Gorilla Tape inside the body. And I do that for two reasons. One, to strengthen the body a little bit more. And two, stop that annoying plastic rattling whenever it's just driving around. I hate that sound. Ooh, this is one annoying sound. I can't get used to it. Never could, never will. So that's what I do, everyone, when I get my new vehicles. And I tell you straight out the box, it is straight out the box. Do I add oil to it? Yes, still straight out the box. I want to make sure that my gears are not metal on metal, so I don't have any issue of cracking the gear or chipping a tooth off one of the gears or overheating the gearbox diff itself to the point where it's starting to melt or I can't get it apart or it's just leaking oil. My suggestion to you, everyone, you get a new one, just do some certain basic things. Check to make sure all the screws are tightened. Make sure you have oil in your diff. Make sure that your mesh is good on your pinion and spur gear. And make sure you have power. And make sure that everything's working. That's all you need to do before you go out there and start enjoying it, because you get out there, you don't check anything, and all of a sudden it doesn't work. Just contact the company, let them know what's going on. They'll tell you, okay, we'll fix it. We'll send you a new one. Just send that one back in. But it'd be a lot nicer if you checked it before you actually went out there and found out it didn't work. My 2 cents, all right? All right, everyone, so you know the deal. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. That's all I'm asking you to do. Me and the new addition to the channel, to the fleet, Dragon RC, Serpent SRX8e. I had to think about that. That's a lot. That's a lot to say in this one video. Okay, let's try it again. This is the new addition to the channel, to the fleet, all right? It's from Dragon RC, the Serpent SRX8e. Ready to run, competition buggy. You asked for it. It's here. We're out.